Well, thank you all for staying with us this late into the agenda. This will be our last talk here. And I'm very pleased to introduce onto the stage Mike Silagadze, who is the CEO of Ether.fi. Mike.
Hi, everyone. I've got a chest thing going on, so if I cough up a lung periodically, don't mind me. Okay, so thanks for those of you that are here for coming to the talk. I'll try to keep it brief and kind of conversational. If you have any questions or whatever, just shout it out. Just to make it more interactive. So I'm the founder and CEO of Ether.fi. Ether.fi is the newest liquid staking protocol. There's two things that make Ether.fi interesting. The first is it's the only protocol where the stakers get to control their keys, specifically both the validator key and the withdrawal credentials. That's a really big deal because we believe that that's essential for making the protocol truly non-custodial. The second thing that's particularly interesting in the current kind of excitement around restaking is that Ether.fi is the first liquid restaking token. So it's natively restaked on EigenLayer and with plans to integrate other restaking protocols. So we're pretty excited about that. We just raised our seed round of financing, a $5 million round with some great investors. That was about 6 months ago. And then we actually just went to mainnet on Friday. So that's very exciting. Currently it's whitelist only, but actually everybody who's on the whitelist is going to be off the whitelist and able to stake tomorrow. So very, very exciting times. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the mechanics of restaking and why native restaking is particularly interesting. I assume, just given the audience and where we are, that you guys know about staking, but I'll give a quick blurb about what restaking is and why native restaking is particularly interesting versus, let's say, non-native restaking. Okay, so restaking, again, I imagine most people here have heard about it, but the basic idea of it is, you stake your ETH, and that gives you the right to run a validator on Ethereum and get a share of the, the revenue that Ethereum produces, various sort of slices of revenue. The idea is, 32 ETH is a lot of ETH. What if you could reuse that same staked ETH as effectively collateral to run validators for other services? So other services might include other blockchains, might include data availability layers, Oracle networks, or a variety of other services. What you're really doing with restaking is you're kind of expanding the Ethereum trust layer to encompass other stuff outside Ethereum. Lots of risks associated with this have been discussed, and they're totally valid. But the upside is pretty significant. If you can imagine a lot of other stuff kind of getting plugged into and utilizing the Ethereum security layer, a lot of value then starts accruing to ETH. It's hard to place a number on that value, but it's not hard to imagine that actually ending up being pretty large. And as far as, let's say, a node operator or a staker, it's not hard to imagine that eclipsing, in fact, the value of sort of basic staking. If only because, it obviously will lead to more ETH being staked, and therefore, lower staking rewards, native, basic staking rewards for everybody, but lots and lots of, hopefully, restaking rewards. So it's a very exciting, fraught with risk, but very exciting opportunity. There's one major player in the restaking world, and that's EigenLayer. Again, I imagine most of you guys have heard of them. But there's others that are starting. So there's Restaking Cloud from BlockSwap, which is really interesting and takes a different approach. And there's lots of other teams that are working on different aspects of this. With Ether.fi, our hope is to become kind of like the restaking router that's like your one-stop shop for staking that's natively integrated into restaking. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, so let's talk about very basic, normal, organic, fresh, locally farmed staking. The way you stake is you've got your keys, so you got your validator key, you've got whatever you're using as your withdrawal credentials. You call a function on the beacon chain deposit contract, send it 32 ETH, and then when you want to unstake, you do a voluntary exit on your validator, and then the ETH magically shows up back to wherever you want it to be withdrawn. Very simple, kind of this closed loop process. With native restaking, so let's say you want to inject EigenLayer or some other restaking solution into this. You do the same thing. You know, deposit your 32 ETH into the Beacon Chain deposit contract, but you point your withdrawal credentials to an EigenPod smart contract. So instead of pointing it to your own wallet or some other, you know, Gnosis safe or some other smart contract, you point it to an EigenPod withdrawal contract. EigenPod is, you know, has all kinds of EigenLayer magic associated with it that is basically providing the capacity for programmable slashing. So if you're running a validator, then that validator is also running other restaking services. Like let's say it's running an Oracle, or it's running a data availability thing. Then if that validator misbehaves, the EigenLayer contracts will slash your ETH. So when you go to unstake it, you, instead of getting your 32 ETH back, you're going to get some fraction of that back. And you can stack, you know, as many services, in theory, as many services you want. On top of that, obviously, again, lots of risks, et cetera, but also you can also increase your staking revenues that way. That's the basic idea. The key thing is your withdrawal credentials are now pointing to an EigenPod that has programmable slashing baked into it. So this is native restaking. Non-native restaking is kind of a weird, kind of interesting thing and I'm talking specifically about EigenLayer because they're doing it, where you take a liquid staking token, like let's say STETH, but really it could be any token. It could be Maker, it could be wrap Bitcoin, it could be whatever. It could be SHIB, Pepe, whatever coin you want. You put it into an EigenLayer contract, kind of sits there, and then the EigenPods are able to programmably slash some other validator that has nothing to do with the tokens that you just deposited. So really, non-native restaking is, it's not staking, it's also not restaking. It actually has nothing to do with either. Really what it is, it's a way to build TVL, like, which is a totally good, solid strategy on the part of EigenLayer, makes a lot of sense. But if you wanted to actually build a staking, you know, like AVS's services on top of this, you need to have the validators then put up a separate bond. Otherwise, they have no economic incentive to not misbehave, right? You need to either have them put up a separate bond, or you only work with trusted node operators who have a reputational risk associated with it. But again, it's like, well, then what do you, like, what does this have to do with restaking? It's not, you know. So my position is the only kind of restaking that actually makes sense is native restaking. For that reason, you know, that's why with Ether.fi, the way our protocol is designed is when ETH goes into our protocol, we do this. In other words, we actually spin up validators that are natively restaked that point to EigenPods, and then when you go to redeem your ETH, we have a mechanism. I briefly mentioned that stakers hold their keys. We have an economic mechanism that incentivizes bondholders to exit the validator, and then the ETH comes back, whether it's slashed or not. But then you can actually sort of address directly a particular validator that may or may not be misbehaving. That's actually running the additional service, as they say, Oracle network or whatever it happens to be. So we think that makes sense, and we have the luxury, being sort of late in the staking game, to have built our protocol this way. You know, obviously like Lido and Rocket Pool, which are, you know, great protocols. You know, restaking wasn't a thing back then, so the protocols are designed in such a way that, you know, they would need to be substantially redesigned to support this kind of thing. So that's pretty exciting. Where are we at now? I think I mentioned we raised a round of financing. October 11th, we did our testnet launch. Went well. We finished our audits a few weeks back. We're also, I think, still running an audit contest with Hats Finance. So if you want to win some money, come and you know, submit some bugs. And then we launched on mainnet, and then this tomorrow we're actually you know, turning off the whitelist and allowing anybody to stake. So come check it out. Give us some feedback. Join our Discord. All that good stuff. And thanks for listening.
Are there any questions from the audience?
So if I would like to participate as a staker in your protocol, then which AVSs I could choose to put my staked ETH on?
Yeah, so there's multiple ways to participate in Ether.fi. If all you want to do is stake ETH, then you would just mint ETH, our liquid staking token. And then all the work is sort of handled by the protocol. We currently don't have a governance DAO. We probably will have one in the future, and that's how the AVSs that we support will be determined, and the particular allocation to those.
But then you use...
So the easy button is the just stake ETH, and that's it.
But then you also use a liquid staking token, so you don't use the native restaking approach.
The liquid staking token is backed by natively restaked ETH. So it goes into a pool, that ETH in the pool gets natively restaked, and the liquid staking token can then be redeemed by, let's say, exiting validators or using the buffer in the pool. However, if you want to run a validator for us, you can do that one of two ways. You can either bond 2 ETH, so it's a 2 ETH bond requirement, and then run a validator, and then you can decide, do you want to restake, do you not want to restake, which AVSs you want to run. You basically do whatever you want because you're running the validator. Or we actually have a program we've been running called Operation Solo Staker, and that actually allows people to run a validator without providing a bond, but it's a permission thing. So we vet everybody that does that, and we use DVT to distributed validator technology to kind of make it lower risk for the protocol to stake with those validators. So if you go to Ether.fi, you can apply to be a solo staker on Ether.fi.
Excellent. Any other questions for Mike? All right. Well, thank you very much for an excellent presentation.
Thanks, everyone.